Hello everyone. Welcome to Confessions Jury, where people put themselves on the spot, waiting for your judgment. Sit comfortably and listen carefully, as you're about to hear today's cases. You hold the hammer and you apply the law. Let us have your verdict down in the comments section. As always, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for kicking my family out after they told me my baby wasn't named after my grandfather? My grandfather, 70M, is in hospice care. I, 16F, have a 5-month-old baby boy. Yes, I'm a teen mom. Get over it. My grandfather's health has been declining for the past 2 years, so he could pass away any day now. He has dementia and other health issues. I was raised by my grandparents. Now, on to the story. My grandfather hates his real name, but he loves his nickname. For example, let's say his name is James, but he goes by Jimmy. So, I named my baby boy after him, as my grandfather is about to pass away. My whole family gathered to meet my baby, Jimmy, not James. At the gathering were my Aunt Susie, 45F, and Abby, 41F, and my cousins Lucy, 14F, and Matt, 19M, among other family members. This took place at my grandmother's house, where I live. I've had a terrible relationship with Susie for a long time, but she asked to hold my baby, even though we don't get along. I figured I should let her hold her great-nephew, since he's still family. Susie said, "Oh, look, it's baby James." I corrected her, saying, "No, his name is Jimmy." Susie looked at me and replied, "I thought you named him after my dad, and my dad's name was James." I told her, "He never went by James. He always went by Jimmy. So, that's what I'm going to call him." Susie said, "You didn't really name him after your grandfather. You named him after his nickname." I responded, "He hated his real name, so I named him after the nickname he liked." At that moment, Lucy came over and asked to hold baby Jimmy, and I told her she could, but she needed to be sitting down. Susie and I went back and forth until Abby stepped in and said, "Jamie, you're being so disrespectful toward your aunt. You didn't really name your child after your grandfather. You named him Jimmy, not James." Baby Jimmy started crying after hearing Abby yell. At that point, I was so pissed. I called my grandmother over and asked her to take my baby for a few minutes. Then I kicked everyone out. Lucy and Matt asked why they had to leave, even though they didn't do anything. And I said, "Because your mother and your aunt are being assholes." Lucy started crying after I said that, and it turned into a big yelling match. Eventually, everyone left, but it wasn't pretty. Baby Jimmy was crying so hard after that, so I cuddled with him and put him to sleep. Afterward, I made dinner and went to bed early, around 7:30 p.m. I woke up at 5:30 the next morning and found a bunch of angry texts from other family members. I don't know what I did wrong. Can someone please tell me? I know I probably did something wrong, and I think I was too short-tempered. I'm wondering if I should apologize, but I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for bursting out laughing when she told me what she brought to our relationship? I, 25M, have been dating my girlfriend, Jen, 24F, for 9 months. 5 months ago, Jen lost her job when her company went under, and around the same time, she had a falling out with her roommate. She was in urgent need of housing, but in an awkward position with employment status. So she reluctantly asked if she could move into my house. I agreed because she had already spent the night several times, and she moved in under the condition that she would begin looking for work to contribute. Now, back on our second date. When I asked Jen if she wanted to be exclusive, she responded by asking me what I would bring to a relationship with her. I answered as pragmatically as possible: a stable income, loyalty, companionship, willingness to compromise, and consistent attention to my appearance/hygiene. I didn't really care much for the question at the time, and so while she seemed mildly satisfied with what I said, I didn't ask her in return. I feel like I've held up my end of the bargain, but after moving in, Jen only really looked for work for about 2 weeks. She now spends the majority of her waking hours on Instagram, TikTok, and Netflix. I've raised the issue with her indirectly before by asking how her job search was going, and she said nobody was hiring, which I find hard to believe. Well, yesterday in the evening, I finally hit my limit. Jen drank a bottle of wine that I was saving for a romantic evening date and spent the rest of her day screwing around on her phone. After work, I sat her down and asked what she thought she brought to the relationship. Jen stared at me for a few seconds as if I had asked the dumbest question in the history of mankind. Then she erupted, frantically pointing at herself, me. I'm the prize. From my perspective, this was coming from a woman who had just gotten day drunk off wine, watched Netflix, and ate all my food. I honestly couldn't contain myself, and I burst into laughter. Every time I looked back at her, she would give me this incredulous look while shrugging, which only made me laugh harder. Jen got really angry at me and let out this wailing shriek sort of sound. She stormed off to another room where I'm 100% sure she just screwed around on her phone more. I haven't talked to her since. I feel like I might have gone too far here. Was I the bad person? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section, and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for calling out my half-sis for making our dad foot her birthday dinner bill? My step-sis is in her early 20s, and I'm in my 30s. We share a dad, but we are not particularly close. She invited everyone to a birthday dinner at a very expensive restaurant that only serves food in large dishes everyone can share. She invited 15 people, mostly her 20-something friends, and then older people like her boyfriend's parents, her own parents, and me and a cousin. The bill was never talked about except during ordering. I wanted a specific salad and said I'd pay for the whole thing and get the bigger option if others wanted it. I guess that was our bad for assuming everyone would pitch in. Everyone got an expensive dish. They ordered exotic rare dishes, and then before the bill came, they all took a huge plate of leftovers. The bill came out to be $700 plus. I asked if one person should put it on their card, and everyone send money to that said person, and everyone except my dad, her boyfriend's parents, and my cousin pretended not to hear me and kept talking over me. My dad offered to put it on his card. It would have been about $50 to $70 a person after a tip, but my dad said he'd cover the birthday girl. My dad paid the whole thing, and the older crowd paid him back, but not any of the 20-somethings. My dad ended up footing a $400 bill after I gave him extra money. I don't have BC. I felt awful for him. He was shocked and said he was sure they'd send him a little bit, at least something. He's not doing so well financially, and I ended up paying 3x the amount BC. I felt so bad for him. Otherwise, the bill would have been higher for him. So we both covered everyone else. I texted my sister and told her to please make sure she let her friends know to send their portion of the bill to him. She said she was offended I brought it up, and none of them had dollar. She said it was rude for me to assume they could pay, that she wanted them there for her birthday, and that they spent enough on her. I told her I thought that was crazy for her to choose an expensive restaurant and just let people get stuck with a surprise bill for her and her friends. I told her it wasn't right, and I felt they were entitled. She's angry, and I am blown away. Am I the bad person? Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comment section, and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for calling my boyfriend's mom out during dinner for making fun of my job? I, 19F, have been dating my boyfriend, 22M, for about 9 months. He's great, and we usually get along really well. However, his mom, late 40SF, has been a point of tension lately. I work as a barista and am also studying part-time. It's not glamorous, but I enjoy my job, and it helps pay for school. His mom is very career-focused and has a high-powered job in finance. From day one, she's been making snide comments about my job, like, when are you going to get a real career? Or isn't that just something people do as a hobby? I usually just brush it off or laugh awkwardly to avoid confrontation. A few days ago, we went to his parents' house for dinner, and everything was going fine until the topic of work came up. His mom made another passive-aggressive remark about how coffee making is a great skill for high schoolers, but isn't really sustainable for adults. I couldn't hold back anymore, and I replied, well, I guess it's a good thing I'm not relying on someone else to support me while I figure out my life. The room went dead silent. My boyfriend didn't say much, and his dad just kept eating. His mom looked shocked and excused herself from the table. Afterward, my boyfriend said I was too harsh, and now I'm wondering if I went too far. I was just so tired of feeling belittled. But I also didn't mean to cause a huge scene. Am I the bad person for snapping at her? Should I have just kept quiet and let it go like I always do? Or was I justified in standing up for myself? You've sat down. You've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it going to be? Let us have it down in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.